Well, hello everybody. Just wanted to get back on track with my daily, which are not daily videos anymore. I've taken a couple of days off because I've wanted to look back over what I have been doing, and just felt like the Lord's been talking to me about some things, and wanted to take a little bit and just kind of dig into what I feel like the Lord's been showing me, and then come back and begin to do the videos once again. So here we go. As I the last few days looked over the videos that I've done over the past few weeks, they can kind of be summed up as we're in a bad spot, God's with us, be encouraged, be full of faith, be full of hope, it's going to get better. So in other words, encouraging everybody and myself in a bad spot. We're okay, we can endure this, we're going to get through it. And I think that's probably good. It's been necessary for the moment. But I found myself kind of growing in uneasiness about just talking like that all the time. And finally, after thinking it over for a day or two, what I realized is that there has to be more to our lives than just coronavirus. There has to be more than just we're going to get through this. Our lives, no matter what else is going on the outside, our lives have to have a focus and a purpose. And the purpose and focus of our lives is the call that God has on us to be followers of Jesus Christ. And so the followers of Jesus Christ just don't hunker down and try to get through some tough days. They have a goal, they have a purpose in mind. And that's what I want to talk to you about in the coming days. And really kind of answer this question. When this coronavirus is all over, what kind of people will we be at that point? What kind of people will we be in relationship to God, in relationship to one another, in relationship to the world around us? Will we be like the groundhog coming out of the ground after hunkering down for some days, some weeks, maybe months? But I think we are better than that. I think we will emerge with a greater sense of connectivity, a greater purpose, and a greater determination to be the people that God's called us to be. And so my goal over the next few days, few weeks, however long this turns out to be, is to help prepare you to be the person that God's called you to be. One of the greatest things that I would not want to happen, let's maybe phrase that in a different way, above all else, I wouldn't want this for you or me, is that when this is all over, we just kind of go back to being the people we used to be. We've been through some events, and I think that we should learn by the events we've been through, and I think that God's purpose in the midst of it, no matter what else is going on, is to equip us to be more effective as his people. And so I want to follow that as a model in my coming weeks. What kind of people will we be? How will we emerge from this? And what has God been teaching us that will help prepare us for the coming days? So kind of a grid that I'm using is a Bible pattern that I've been aware of for quite a while, years, but I only knew how to apply it in a very small way because I was going through small situations in the grander scheme of things. It might have been very big, very traumatic to me, but in terms of global events, they're not that big of a deal. And in fact, most of the time, nobody but me knew about it, so it wasn't that big a deal. But we find ourselves in a global event, worldwide event in these days. And you have to look at that and say, what in the world is going on? Well, I'm reading a lot of things online that say, well, it's signs of the end, that the Bible tells us in the last days all these things are going to happen. I'm going to talk about that. Is this a sign of the end? Is this Bible prophecy being fulfilled? We'll talk about that along the way as well. But the Bible pattern that I've seen is that God uses, even if he may cause or just allow, but he uses trouble to move his people from one dispensation or style of God dealing with people or relating to people into a new dispensation, a new style or a new way of God dealing with his people. And you find that pattern repeated again and again in the scriptures. Probably the most notable example would be Israel coming out of Egypt, that it took trouble to break them free out of Egypt. Now, you could say, well, if Pharaoh wouldn't have been hard-hearted, but Pharaoh was hard-hearted. He wouldn't let the people go. And so it took some dramatic effort on God's part to spring the people of Israel free of Egypt. But that wasn't the end of the matter. Before they got into the promised land, they, as you know, had that moment where they looked at the difficulty of possessing the promises of God and turned back in unbelief. And I think what was happening there was that you had a whole nation of people with a slave mentality that were unable to face the struggle that was ahead to fully appreciate and appropriate the promises of God. And so God let a whole generation of slave mentality people die off in the wilderness so it could raise up a generation with a warrior mentality that would fight and take the land. So God allowed trouble to bring the people from one way of thinking into a new way, from one past of and one history into a new history. And so I have to look at what's going on and say, okay, God, what are you moving us out of and what are you moving us into? And that's the core of what I want to talk to you about in the coming days. So that's just a little teaser. I don't intend to make these big, long teachings, not even 10 minutes, but I'll stick to kind of what I've been doing right along, 4 to 6 minutes. And it's my goal to inspire you and to give you some hope and faith as to what God's doing in your life. And so I will see you tomorrow as we jump into this new style of teaching. Hey, God bless your day. Be full of faith, be full of hope. Great days ahead of us. God bless.